begin. Once again, I'm so excited to be talking to you about becoming people-pleasing proof. This literally is my life's work. I'm especially interested in talking to women who are creative, but they keep doubting themselves because I was one such woman. So you are somebody who know you're meant for more. You want to create grand things for yourself and the world, and that is the woman I am talking to here today. This is actually a pre-work or the base that I want us to have before we meet for our 3-day boot camp. Yes, I'm doing a 3-day boot camp called People Pleasing Can Go to Hell. It is free. It starts on 8th, and you can register for it in the I'll put the link in the description, or you can just message me on Facebook and say boot camp, and I will get you started. So today I want to set the context for why we need to become people-pleasing proof and why it is actually easy if we allow it. So I want to invite you to look at God. God as our source, or you might call it Mother Earth, nature, universe, whatever feels good to you. So if we look at God, look at how we humans are so divided on who God is. Or forget who, we are even divided on whether God exists or not. So it is further proof that the ego mind of humans cannot appreciate what the one true thing in the universe is. If we can't come to agreement about our source, our creator, how are we expecting to please all humans or the humans in our family? Because most women, creative women, struggle with people pleasing because they are seeking validation from their family. They're very connected to the family. They are probably the black sheeps of the family, and they want to really, really feel appreciated in the family. So if we cannot, as humans, come to agreement to our source, our creator, how are we to please all humans or humans in our families? It is not possible. It does not even have to be. Now you are here. If you're here, tell me you are here because I know you're God loving. When I started this live, I wanted to have people, women who are God loving and not God fearing. I want to talk to women who consider God as love, who feel when they are disconnected from the source, that is actually hell and not something they have read about in the scriptures about what hell is. Because hell for me is not living my life in faith. I have lived my hell. So now I don't want to. And that's why I do this work that I don't want any other woman to also live in her hell. Right. So now the only being, the only, I don't even want to call it an entity, but the only being I'm intentful to serve is God, source, creator. There is no one other than that. Because I have tried to please a lot of people, like a lot of people, especially my family. But all I ended up feeling was resentment, anger, and a lot of sadness. There was also regret. But when I connected to God, and I'm not talking about the God that is in like the religious context. It can very well be if you get connected to God from your religion as well. But I'm talking to God as love. For me, God is love. God is all attractive. Okay. I didn't care about what people think because people are fickle minded. So when I started to connect with God, I realized how people are so fickle minded. Like I said, we cannot even come to an agreement of who God is or God even exists or not. So when I say people, my context is very simple that I am mostly talking about my family because that is who I try to please the most. But my mission is grander than they can possibly imagine. And when I expect them to understand me and my mission, it's futile. It's a futile attempt. Let me tell you why. And you might have also gone through this in your life where you're trying to make people understand your point of view, your mission, what you want to create, but you cannot make them understand you, and then you get frustrated. I have tried it a lot of times. I don't anymore. So, for example, if somebody has lived in a city which has no museums whatsoever, tell me how will they understand the joy of visiting a museum or working in a museum or building a museum? I know it's such a random example, museum, but that's the thing. They will not be able to understand. And we tend to expect so much from people, but sometimes and most times they do not even have the capacity to imagine what we can imagine for ourselves. All of us are here are on different timelines, different spiritual timelines, even if we have grown up in the same household with the same set of beliefs, going to the same school, going to the same church or temple or mosque, everything. You, your siblings and you have a completely different personality. My siblings and their outlook towards life is very different from my outlook. It is because of the spiritual timeline they are in and I am in, and also how they have wired themselves to believe in a certain kind of reality. You know that there is this RAS, which is reticular activating system in our nervous system, which is responsible for us to filter our reality. It is why people living in the same household will have completely different personalities. Because while one is focused on what is right, the other might be focused on what is wrong. So your personality is dependent on your personal reality. That is why our personalities also change as we shift our focus and find a new way to see reality. For example, my personality was that I am an introvert. I could not speak up. I could not. Not every introvert cannot speak up. It's just that I was that kind of introvert. Wow. Okay, I was the kind of introvert who could not speak up, who felt shy, who was because she has zero confidence in herself. But then when I started to look at my life as a devotion to God, source, the universe, to love, the confidence that I gained from within was so powerful that I did not want to dim my light. I knew that what I have to share is so much greater than a selfish thing. And I also allowed myself to be a little selfish because my work was so important. I could feel the importance of my work. And I know that if you're here watching me, listening to me, you know that your work is important, but you have allowed yourself to be guided by these notions of what will people think, and my family is of a certain way and they'll not understand all of that. So when I expected to be understood by people, I'm expecting is basically for them to be like me. But there's nobody like me. There is nobody like you in this world. Everybody is living in a different timeline, living a different reality that is created by our mind. So who do I please then? Who do I please? If nobody, I know inherently nobody is going to understand me in the way that I want them to understand because they are living in a different reality. Who do I please then? The only being that is constant, the only truth that is constant is Source, God, Universe. And that is what I intend to serve. That is what I want to focus my energy on. That is what I'm inviting you to also focus on. Now, people pleasing also takes us away from the only truth about humans. Okay. The only truth about humans is that we have creative power. And when we rely on our family or on loved ones or society or my teachers or all of those people to validate us, we ignore our true genius. When we people please, we end up forgetting our true nature. We forget to create. Tell me, when was the last time you created something just for the sake of creating, not because you had a deadline, not because your boss asked you to do, not because just not because you had to feed your kids and that's why you cooked food for them, but just created for the sake of creating. That is the thing. We end up forgetting the only truth about ourselves, that is, we are creative beings. When we end up believing what others have told us about us, about what to believe about people and the world, We absorb it, and then our nervous system, our subconscious mind, takes it as truth to build on it further. So, for example, if you believe the USA is the best country in the world, you will get enough and more proof for it. If you believe the USA is the worst country in the world, you'll get enough proof for it. Our creative minds have the capability and capacity to create instances, situations, and thought patterns to prove what we believe in. But what we use as people pleasers, this creative power is for our worst. We actually let go of this power and use it, misuse it in a way to create disharmony, to create chaos in our life, because we are always overthinking about things that have happened to us. We don't use our creative genius to visualize our dream life. Sometimes, and most often, we don't even know what our dream life looks like. And even when we do, we tend to give our power away to people who surround us, right? We let our personalities be dictated by our personal reality. And I do believe that every problem in this world is a disconnect problem, because we are disconnected from each other and the source. That is what keeps us stuck all the time. When we start to use our creative mind to visualize, to imagine a world where we feel peaceful, happy, and living in abundance, our subconscious mind has no, there's no way our subconscious mind or our RAS to focus on anything but that. Our RAS will start to filter our reality like that. So the disconnection, the disconnection, the disconnection, the disconnection that we feel, when we heal it by focusing on our relationship with our God and ourselves, things start to change. So people pleasing at the root of it all is a disconnect problem. It started with when something happened to us in our childhood, in our adulthood, when we had to survive. It is a survival coping mechanism that we inherited. And we started to disconnect from ourselves. Okay. So people pleasing is essentially a disconnect problem. And we solve it by using our creative power to get back into the connection with ourselves and God. Our creativity is God given. Everybody is creative because everybody has come from source, and source is the creator. Rose plants, if you look at it, rose plants will always have rose buds, right? There is no way that you sow a sapling for roses and you'll get lilies. That is not possible. Similarly, we are creators, sources, children. Creator is the biggest creator. So creators' children are creative beings. There is no other way. And we live when we live to serve God, source, universe, we find our connection back to our creativity. And through this, we find our people, the people we are meant to help and connect with, the people who we are meant to live our lives with, live our purpose with. So we become people pleasing proof when we live to please God and create through our God given power. And when I say God, I'm not talking about the religious God, which comes with a set of how you should be in the world, but I'm talking about the source who created us uniquely and made so many people, so many children who have different gifts, who are unique, who are so diverse, and gave us the freedom to create further. So that is what I want to focus on, and I want to build on in the 3-day boot camp called People Pleasing Can Go to Hell. Right? I'm sure you have a lot of questions. You can write them down here. You can send them to me over DM on Facebook. And I want us to come together for 3 days where we work on letting go of living in hell, letting go of people pleasing once and for all, and coming back to our creative power, the power that lies within us that is God given. The link register is going to be in the description. And to integrate what we discussed, you can come back to it again and again. But to sum it up, I would like you to reflect on these three questions before we meet. Number one is, how is your relationship with God? Do you fear God or do you live in faith? Number two is, where do you try to seek validation from people? Where do you try to seek validation from people? Because you might have worked on people pleasing, you might have worked on your self worth issues, but if there is somehow you are still not creating or living the kind of life that you always dream of, when you do not allow yourself to um, shine your light, when you dim your light, when you not allow yourself to be visible, you are still seeking validation from people. You're still seeking some sort of external validation. So tell me, where do you try to seek validation from people, and is it serving you? And the number three question that I have, or the prompt that I have, is, what do you want to create in this world? What do you want to create in this world? Let the answer come up. Once you have written down this answer, now I want you to write this answer again. What do you want to create in this world, knowing that there is a whole army of guides helping you? There's a whole army of spiritual beings protecting you, guiding you. And now tell me, how would your answer change? I will be listing all these questions inside my group called the name of my group is Self Leadership Community. I will also link it there. All of these, the work that we'll do it inside the group so that you feel more comfortable. But I want you to answer these and post it there so that I know where you are at. And I will see you inside the 3-day boot camp. Trust me, it is coming from my soul. I'm going to build on it as we go. Every single day will be a follow up to the next day, and it's going to be amazing. I invite you. It's free, yet it can be life changing if you let it. Okay. So I'm always rooting for you. Thank you for being here. I will see you inside the 3-day boot camp. It starts on 8th of September. Take care. Namaste.